Welcome to our topic on trigonometry. Okay, so we are continuing. Last time we did about sectors, we did about segments, and now we are going to look at sketching trigonometric graphs. Okay, so this is another topic which involves graphs. Okay, so we're going to be drawing sine graphs, cos graphs, and tangent graphs. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Okay, so our learning objectives of this lesson is to make sure by the end of it, we are going to identify and sketch basic shapes of cosine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, so given a graph, you're going to identify if it's cosine, sine, or tangent, or you're going to, given a function of a graph, you're going to be able to sketch it. Okay, so this is the first objective. Then the second objective is you're going to understand the effects of the amplitude. Okay, we're going to study about amplitude, period, midline. So on this graph, you're going to understand their effects. How do they change, and how do they affect? They are affected by the change of the graph. Okay, then the third thing is to plot key points. Okay, so to plot key points of the graph and identify symmetries of sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, and also we're going to identify this as lines of asymptote here. Okay, so this is our learning objective. Okay, so make sure you are subscribed so that when we post something new, you're going to be able to see it. Let's start by learning the basic shapes of trigonometric functions. Okay, so we're going to learn the basic shapes, and you're going to learn how do we modify them to become better shapes. Okay, so the first graph is the sine function. Okay, the sine function. Okay, so this y is going to be numbers. Okay, we're going to have numbers. Okay, so it's going to be integers or any number. Okay, then integers or any real number. Okay, then this x here is going to be an angle. Okay, so we see that an angle. We're going to measure it in this. We're going to start with the radians. Okay, you can simply change them to degrees if you want. Okay, know that we have a topic where we looked about interchanging between these. Okay, so we're going to use radians for easy understanding, but this angle can be measured in degrees. Okay, so make sure you know that we're going to include a number here, a real number, then here is going to be our angle. Okay, so let's now draw the sine angle, the sine graph. Okay, so to want to draw the sine graph, you start, this is the horizontal axis, which is the x-axis. Okay, in this x-axis, you're going to, it's going to be an angle. Okay, in this case, we're going to say it is in radians. Okay, and we could draw our y-axis. Okay, it is just a number, any number. Okay, so this is our axis. Okay, so the way we draw our sine angle, it starts from here. Okay, so you draw from 0 here, then you draw like this. That one in your notebook, and they understand it. Okay, so know that this shape continues in the same way. It's a sinusoidal. It continues as the degrees move. Okay, here we can see that here we have 0 here, and here we have 90 here at the midpoint here. It's 90 degrees, which is pi over 2, and here we have 180, which is pi. Then here we have 3 pi over 2. Then here we have 2 pi. Okay, so this is the first 360 degrees, or the first 2 pi radians. Okay, so here we just have to take again. Here it is minus pi over 2. Here it's minus pi. Here it's minus 3 pi over 2, and here is 2 pi. Okay, so this is the graph of y is equals to sine x. Okay, and here you can see that all these lines are in the same. Okay, are in the same. They are equal here. They are at 1. Here it's 1, and here it's minus 1. Okay, so this is the basic graph of sine. Okay, so if you want to draw a graph of sine, you just draw this one. It's the very basic of it. If you are given a graph which is y is equals to sine x. Okay, so you are usually given a range. Okay, in this case we have our range, which is minus 2 pi x minus to 2 pi. Okay, so this is a range. Okay, from minus 2 pi to 2 pi. Okay, so if you are given another range, even you are supposed to stop here, you can just stop here, everywhere. Okay, so this is the range you are going to draw. Okay, so let's see how do we draw the other graphs, and we are going to go again with this sine graph when it is modified to another graph. Let's say it is modified to become y is equals to 2 sine x plus a certain number plus 3, or it is modified to become y is equals to 2 sine 2x plus 4. Okay, plus 4 pi plus 3. Okay, so I'm going to show you what all these numbers will do if you add a number here, what we will do, what will it do? If you add a number here, what will it do? If you add a number here, what will it do? Okay, so this was the sine graph. Make sure you memorize how to draw it, and make sure you understand the concept about it. Okay, so this was the sine graph. Let's go to the cosine graph. Let's take a look at a cosine graph. Okay, so this is our cosine graph. Like the sine graph, y is going to represent a real number. Okay, a real number, and x is going to represent an angle. Okay, in this case today we are going to use rads. Okay, so you can use degrees. I remember I've taught how to change rads to degrees and degrees to rads. Okay, so this is it. Okay, so we're going to draw a graph from range, which range from 2 pi to pi. Okay, so it's going to be like this. Okay, so this is how you are given your range. You're supposed to draw from minus 2 pi and to 2 pi. Okay, so let's see how do we draw it. The first thing, we just have to draw your y-axis, which is going to be real numbers. Okay, then you draw your x-axis. Okay, so your x-axis is going to continue rads. Okay, so these are rads. Okay, so the difference between the cosine and the sine is that the cosine starts here. The cosine starts here at 1. Okay, and the sine starts here. Okay, so you're just going to draw the same sinusoid here, but it means that it is going just to start here. Okay, so in this case it's going to look like this. Make sure you understood, right? Okay, so this is the graph. Okay, so here you can see that here is a pi over 2, and here it's pi, and here is 3 pi over 2, and here it's 2 pi. Okay, here you can see that here is minus pi over 2, then here it's minus pi. Okay, and here it's minus 3 pi over 2, and here it's minus 2 pi. Okay, so you can now, you've successfully drawn the graph of cosine. The only difference is it's just start here on 1. Okay, that sine graph started at here, but here it started 1. Okay, so here you can see that this one is 1 also, and this one is 1 also. Okay, so this was the graph of cosine. I hope you understood. You just have to change a small thing on the cosine graph. Okay, so next we are going to look at the tangent graph, but on this cosine graph we are going to come back when it is modified like this. Okay, let's say you're given a graph like this, and it is saying cos a certain b a times x plus a certain c plus d. Okay, we have changed, we have included constants, this constant. We're going to see how these affect our graph, how these affect how do we draw a graph. Okay, so this was it on cosine. Wait and see how do we draw a tangent graph. Next, let's take a look at the tangent function. Okay, this is a graph of tan. Okay, so we're going to do the basic shape, the very basic shape, which is y is equals to 10x. Okay, like the graph, this one is a real number. Okay, you can know that y is a real number, and this x is an angle. Okay, so it's an angle in rads. Okay, so we're going to continue using rads. Okay, so let's draw. The first thing you're going to draw is you're going to draw a y and the x-axis. Okay, so this is your y and this is your x. Okay, this is your y and this is your x. Okay. So what you're going to do is this graph of tangent, it is asymptotes. Okay, it is asymptote here at pi over 2. Okay, it's an asymptote line. Okay, and here you can see that at minus pi over 2 it is a asymptote again, minus pi over 2, and the other asymptote is at minus 3 pi over 2 and at 3 pi over 2. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is to draw this asymptote. Okay, so what you do is you just draw this graph. Okay, so how do we draw this graph? Here we have 0, and here you can see that what at the middle we have pi here, and at the middle here we have pi. Okay, here in this side it's negative pi, and here you can see that we have 2 pi, and here this side we have 2 pi, minus 2 pi. Okay, so now what you have to do is we just have to draw the graph. How do we draw it? Okay, we just draw something like this. It starts on the asymptote, so you make sure you don't reach the asymptote, and it comes to 0, and it approaches the asymptote. Okay, so this is the graph. You come again this side and draw the same. It comes from asymptote and draw like this. Okay, so it repeats every 180. Okay, every 180 degrees or every pi radian, it repeats. Okay, so now you can see that you just have to draw like this. Okay, this was not so pretty, but this is the drawing. Then here you draw the same like this. Okay, and here it is going to start from here. Okay, so for this range, minus 2 pi x to 2 pi. Okay, so this is the graph. Okay, you just have to draw these little things. Okay, so this was the graph of tan. Okay, now you can see that to go to y-axis, it goes until infinity. Okay, so it means that it's the y-axis, it goes until infinity. Okay, and here it goes until negative infinity. Okay, but here you are given this range. Okay, so you're going to use this range to draw a graph. Okay, so the key notes to take away is that it is in this shape, and it touches through 0, pi, 2 pi, minus pi, and minus 2 pi, and also it will go at 3 pi, and it will touch through 4 pi, and so on and so on. Okay, so this was the graph of tangent. Okay, so make sure you've grasped the concepts which are important to draw these shapes. Okay, make sure you draw a better one, better than this in your exams. Now let's talk about general formulas and other key points. Okay, so the general formula of a graph, we're going to do the sine and the cosine graph at the same, and do the tangent graph on its own, because if you have observed, the sine and the cosine are the same and the tangent is different to others. Okay, so in this graph, let's start to talk about the general formula. Okay, the general formula is y is equals to a sine bx plus c plus t. Okay, so this is the general formula of the graph. Okay, so here we can see that this a, it affects the amplitude. Okay, so if we have our graph like this, okay, this is a cosine graph. Okay, let's assume this one from 1 to -1. Okay, this is what we call amplitude. Okay, so it is determined by this value of a. Okay, so if this value of a is 2, this means that our value here is going to be 2 and -2. Okay, so this one is our amplitude. Okay, then this one is determines the period. Okay, so you have to remember amplitude, period. Okay, so the period is the time when it repeats. Okay, you see this graph from this down. Okay, it starts from here and it goes back here, and you can see that here it repeated this step. It is going down here, and here it is going down again. Okay, so from the distance from here to here is what we call period. Okay, so the distance from here to here is what we call period. Okay, so it is affected by this p. Okay, and this c, it affects where it starts. Okay, you know that the graph of course starts at 0, at 9, at here, at 1. It started here. Okay, so if you add c, it means that it's going to move this direction, and if you subtract c, it means that it's going to move in this direction. Okay, so it's going to move c steps. Okay, this will be in degrees. Okay, so this is it. So you are just going to see how do we use this when it is written. Okay, so please follow my video when I do about curve sketching about that. Okay, then this d is going to affect this midline on the cosine and sine on sine graph. Okay, this midline in this case it's 0, right? You know that it's x-axis. Okay, but if this d becomes 2, okay, this means that this graph is going to go this line is going to be 2, and the x-axis is going to be here. Okay, so make sure you understand that. Okay, so this was the general rule. You just have to remember that this one affects the amplitude of the graph, which is this one. Then this b affects the period of the graph, which is from a distance where the graph repeats the same step, like from here to here, it repeats the same step. Okay, and this c affects the graph where it is going to start. Okay, and this d here affects this midline. Okay, so this was about sine and cosine graphs. Okay, so make sure you master this so that when you draw a graph, you're going to see how it is affected. Okay, we are going to do examples of drawing this graph. Okay, now let's talk about the graph of tan on these key concepts and general formulas. Okay, so if a graph of tan is given, is given in the form y is equals to a tan bx plus c plus d. Okay, let me tell you what everything is going to affect. Okay, so this a, like always, is going to affect amplitude. Okay, but in this tangent graph, our amplitude, it doesn't have amplitude. Okay, So this means that it doesn't affect anything. It just stretches the graph. So when you are drawing, you won't see anything. But when you are working out, you have to include this A. This B affects the period. Okay, so if you have seen that our graph of tangent goes like this. Okay, and you have talked that the period of a graph is when a graph repeats. Okay, so the distance from this repetition to other repetition, okay, when it repeat here, okay, when it repeat again here, in any equal graph is from 0 and here it's pi. Okay, so you can see that this distance is pi distance. Okay, is pi radians. Okay, so this distance is affected by this. Okay, so if you multiply by 2 here, it means that this distance is going to be divided by 2. Okay? Is going to be shrinked, so it becomes pi to pi over 2. Okay, if you multiply by 2. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you this, how it is going to affect. Then this C affects the position where it starts. Okay, so if this C is somewhere here, we are going to see our graph starting from C here. Okay, this point is going to be C. Okay, so this is the meaning of C. Okay, if it is negative, it means that this C is in positive, and if it is positive like this, it means that this C is going to be in this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how do we transform this graph. Then this T affects the midline like every graph. This means that if this graph is a number, if this graph is 0, in this case it's y is equals to 0, right? It's going to move and it becomes 2. Okay, so if you're given this, the graph is 2, it's going to move to be 2, and if it's a number, it's going to move to any D number. Okay, so now what you have to remember is this A, it doesn't affect much on the tangent graph. Then this B is going to affect the period from where a graph repeats itself from here to here. Then this C is going to affect where the graph is going to start. Here it started 0 and started to rise. So it means that this position is going to move to C and everything is going to move with it. Okay, then this D is going to affect the midline. Okay, so that was that. Let's go on our example 1. Okay, our example 1, it is a graph of sine. Okay, so when you see this, you just have to remember the shape of the sine graph. Okay, so example, it is saying that sketch the graph of this. Okay, so we are asked to sketch the graph of this. Okay, so you know that this graph is going to be like this. Okay, and it is going to start here. So okay, so this is what a shape you should have in your mind, and then you start drawing. Okay, so here we can see that the only modification which was done is to change this value to become 2. Okay, so this means that the only thing which is going to change is the amplitude. I told you that this A, in the previous chapter, it was A. This number affects the amplitude. Okay, so this means that the only effect you are going to go on our graph is going to be that amplitude. Okay, so let's draw the graph as usual. Okay, we are not given the range here. Okay, so you can draw any range you want. Okay, so let's just draw the range from minus 2 pi to x to 2 pi. Okay, so this is the range you are going to use. Okay, so sometimes you are given this range. Okay, so follow this range. It's very important. Okay, so now we just have to draw our y-axis here. Okay, this is a sketch graph. So as for you, you're supposed to use a ruler here and make sure you draw your curves very smoothly. Okay, so the first thing you're going to know that it is going to go on 2, and it is a sine graph. Okay, so a sine graph starts at 0. Okay, so it's going to start like this. Okay, I can say I've tried my best on this one. This is my weak point. Okay, so forgive me there. Okay, so now we can now say this, it is only modified here. Okay, so this means that it has only affected the amplitude. Okay, so this is the amplitude, it has been affected. Okay, so we just label it, it becomes 2. Okay, and this one becomes minus 2. Okay, so this is the only effect. Okay, from our previous graph, this was 1. Here it has changed to become 2. Okay, so it becomes 2. Okay, so it's easy that nothing else will change. This graph will go here and touches at pi, and it is going to here at 2 pi, and here it is going to touch at minus pi, and here at minus 2 pi. Okay, so these midpoints, you can know them, just divide by 2. Here it's going to be 3 pi over 2, then here it is going to be minus pi over 2, and here it's going to be pi over 2, and here it's going to be 3 pi over 2. Okay, so this is it about this graph. Okay, you can see that the only change which was made here, this was the change of this. Okay, so make sure you understand this before we go on. Make sure you understood how to draw this. Okay, If you have a question, you are free to comment in the comment section. Okay, next, let's sketch our next example, example 2, which is the graph of course. Okay, so when you know that the graph of course, you just remember a shape. It is a sinusoidal like this, and you remember it is different from the sign that it starts from a high point. Okay, so this is it. You just have to remember that. Okay, so now we can see that the only modification which was made from our graph, this is the graph we know. Only modification is it was added 1 here. Okay, so I told you that when this graph is added 1 here, it means that it affects the midpoint. Okay, so you remember the midpoint was y is equals to 0. Okay, so in this case it is added 1. It means that it's going to be y equals to 1. Okay, so now let me show you how to draw this. Okay, so the first thing is you are going to draw a horizontal line like this. Okay, then you are going to draw a vertical like this, which is our y-axis. Okay, in this case you see that this is our x. Okay, you are going to draw the graph of course as always. Okay, but you are not going to draw in this x-axis. You see this, it has changed the midpoint. Okay, so it has changed to 1. Okay, so you are going to go on 1 here. Okay, this is 1. Let's assume this is our 1. Okay, so we are going to draw this graph from here. Okay, so our graph of course starts from the up here, so we are going to draw it, and here you can see that it is not changed. Okay, so this means that our amplitude is going to stay 1. Okay, so this means that it's going to start from, this is 1, and our amplitude is going to be 1. Okay, so it is going to start from 2 here. Okay, so it's going to go like this. Okay, forgive me for the bad shape, but you get my point. Okay, so this y line is going to be y is equals to 1. Okay, meaning this one. Okay, this line is going to be y is equals to 1. Okay, so next is going to be this is 2, and you can see that this is 0. Okay, so this is 0. This graph is amplitude of 1. Okay, from here to here is 1, and from here to here is 1. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, so this was the graph. You just have to label here. This one is going to be minus 2 pi. Okay, and this one when it reaches here is going to be minus 3 pi over 2, and this one is going to be pi, and again this one is going to be pi over 2, minus all these are negatives, and you are just going to repeat this side. Okay, this one is pi over 2 without negatives this time. This one is going to be pi, and this one is going to be 3 pi over 2, and this one is going to be 2 pi. Okay, so this was the graph. As easy as that. You just have to draw this. Okay, so I assume you are going to draw a better graph than this, a good shape, and use a ruler here and label well. Okay, this was just an illustration for you to understand. Okay, so I hope you understood all these graphs, and I'm going to do another video where I only draw these graphs of this shape, of these shapes, okay, of this trigonometry. I'm going to do like 5 or 6 examples. Okay, so make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that video, and make sure you're here so that you don't miss other topics which are important for exams.